You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
Hey, buddy, you gonna eat that sausage?
No, go past this. Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Tell me something, my friend.
Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the role? Ladies and gentlemen!
Your complete attention, if you please.
The Epic Film Guys Podcast. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Epic Film Guys Podcast. I am thrilled to be back after taking a, I think at least, well-deserved week off last
needed.
week.
Very much needed,
After the live stream for The Cure. Welcome, everybody. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. I am Epic Film Guy Nick.
And I'm Epic Film Guy Justin. I'm glad to have you back, Nick. It was kind of weird not having you around last week, even though the sauce and I only did a mini-sode review of Deadpool 2. Yeah, the sauce. You pour them all over everything, and then you just eat them right up that bastard.
That sounds like him.
Good, yeah. But, I mean, it was a much-needed break for you, and I didn't mind just doing a quick mini-sode for our listeners out there. But, hey, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's our first official episode since the live stream for The Cure 2.0. We're going to be glad to talk about that right here at the front of the show. But how are you doing, Nick? How are you doing after the event? Did you get your much-deserved and much-needed rest, relaxation?
Well, so let me tell our listeners about this. So last week, I was supposed to see Deadpool Sunday night. Like an hour after the event ended, I was supposed to get right up and go to a theater. I was dog tired.
Never going to happen. I knew it wasn't going to happen.
No, you were dead right. It was not going to happen. So I picked up a ticket for Monday night, and you hadn't seen the film either. So you went and saw it Monday as well. So,
I saw it Tuesday, actually.
Oh, you saw it Tuesday. Wow. So
yeah,
Justin even saw it after I did. So we didn't get a chance to see Deadpool 2, and like Monday came and went. I went to the theater. I watched Deadpool 2. I'm going to talk about my thoughts about the movie briefly in segment 3 of the show. But it came time, like we would normally record on Mondays, so we kicked recording to Tuesday night, and then it's about 8 o'clock, 8:15 Tuesday, and I am falling asleep, just sitting at my chair. I'm pulling EFG history clips, and I'm just like, like I'm legit falling asleep sitting in my fucking chair. So I text Justin. I'm like, dude, look, I cannot go this week. And he's like, well, do you want to kick the show? Do you want to kick the show a day later? We'll record it tomorrow or whatever. And I'm just like, no, because I mean, we've released on Thursdays every day for like 2.5 fucking years.
Have we
now.
ever missed a day on Thursday? Like, have we ever missed an episode on Thursday?
Very early in the run of the show, there were some days when like it would go up the day later or whatever, because I didn't know or care as much about podcasting as I do now. Like I know and understand how important that schedule is now. So like we've literally released on Thursdays for the past 2.5 years, and I was like, no, I cannot miss it, can't do it. So he and the Sauce recorded their Deadpool review, and I really appreciate you guys still putting something together, so we had something to release last week. And yeah, I was dog tired, just dead tired. I have not sent any prizes to anybody who took part in the live stream for The Cure, so those will be coming starting this week. I started doing especially stickers, especially smaller prizes and stuff like that are going to go out in the mail first. And then obviously we've got shirts, we've got mugs, beer glasses, all sorts of different things for the live stream for The Cure that need to go out in the mail. So all that stuff will happen over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. But I promise everyone that was announced as a prize winner during the live stream, you will get your prize. I guess we got to talk about it, right? We got to get right into. Yeah. We fucking did it.
We did it, dude. Legit. I couldn't believe it, man. I really couldn't believe it. Like, and we weren't even done. We were like halfway through the day on Sunday on our third day, and we nailed it. And it was such an amazing feeling. Like, I can't tell you enough, man. I know how you felt. I think I know how you felt. But me on my end, when I saw that number, and because I had taken a break and I came back to the computer and I looked, and I was like, oh my God, it's already there. Like, we're there. We did it.
Yep.
It's just such a testament to all the hard work that you put into it and everybody else involved. And dude, seriously, we fucking did it.
We did it. So these are the totals. These are the official totals, because we actually got a donation a few days after the event We got a $10 donation over on the Cancer Research Institute page, which we appreciate. Fine. Thank you. But the total amount raised, and this is the amount that we raised for the Cancer Research Institute after they double everything that we made in the month of May, and the $780 that we raised for Perry and Lindsay Johnson, who closed out the show with us, did the last hour and a half. And Lindsay, in particular, sent me a very, very heartfelt tweet about, or like a Twitter message about how, how thrilled she was to see kind of the old Perry, like when we were talking about comic book movies and stuff like that. Like, she was so happy to just see that side of him, because it's something, obviously, since he's gotten sick, since the diagnosis, they've been running doctor's appointments like crazy. But we raised $780 for them. But our grand total, Justin, the total amount that we raised for the live stream for the cure, literally everything, early donations, on stream, Perry and Lindsay, everything, ladies and gentlemen, $11,615.88. Almost $12,000. I mean, that's $240 in early donations before the month of May. So we already had a bunch of generous people jump right on it very, very early on. I know Destruction in Human Form, Jared Taylor, who I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit in a moment, Justin. I want to talk about our top donors and also our $100 club. And if I miss anybody, I do apologize, but I'm really tried my best to aggregate the numbers. But the way that Streamlabs tracks it is by email address. So if you have multiple hosts for the same show making a donation, like, it tracked as separate, even though you're from the same show. So I tried to accommodate for that. So I do apologize if I missed some people. So we had $240 in early donations, Justin, during the live stream. Just during the live stream for the cure itself, and that final $10 donation we got a few days later, $5,537.94 were raised for the Cancer Research Institute, that got doubled. Okay, so the total that we raised for the Cancer Research Institute, $10,835.88. Crazy.
There it is, man.
I mean, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, and I'm overwhelmed with just a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment, because we talked about this a little bit in the patron only segment. Justin and I talked about this in the weeks leading up to the event, and especially right after it happened. Justin and I, of course, texted back and forth about it, about how hard last year was. Last year, our goal was $2,500, and we raised about $1,200 of it. Right, during the live stream for the cure. Now, the Cancer Research Institute doubled it, and that ended up at just about $2,500 when everything was all said and done. But it was a little hollow.
It was frustrating.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to deal. I think walking away from it knowing that, I mean, you had been so ambitious with the idea in the first place, and for such a great cause, we sat down, we're like, well, we haven't seen another podcast do something like this.
I will say this. I had no fucking idea what I was doing last year. None.
But hey, even so, like you just said, we did raise money for a great cause, and so it did do something. It made a small, tiny little dent. Where this year, we made a much larger dent.
Yeah, this year.
In cancer.
So as we approach this year, like, first of all, we made, like I said, about $1,200 last year, and I decided to go whole hog, and I was like, no, we're going to raise $5,000 on our own this year, before anything gets doubled. And I didn't know the Cancer Research Institute was going to double our proceeds. That came as a complete shock to me. So, like, I set that goal. That's 4 times what we made last year, 4 times what we raised. And granted, we tripled the amount of time we were on the air. We went from 12 hours, 2.5 times, 12 hours to 30 hours. But when you count Loot Quest, because Loot Quest ran until like 3-something Saturday morning, we were live for like probably almost 36 hours, including pre-checks and like everything, like whatever. It was just crazy. And to quadruple the amount, like, that was like, I was so worried before the event started, but then early donations came in, and they kept coming in. And just what we raised in early donations and everything else, we started off the event on a really, really good footing. We started with like 13 to 14%. We had an amazing show lead us off with Miserable Retail Slave. I love those guys, and Randy was offering money for insults to Tommy, which people were taking advantage of, which was really, really fun.
That was a blast. That whole segment, I think, just set us off perfectly. People were just having a fucking great time with that.
Those guys are absolutely amazing, and I love them, and I'm so grateful to Randy and Tommy for setting some time aside, as well as Jake and Tom from Jake and Tom Conquer the World, who called in from Motor City Comic Con, literally live from a hotel during the event, just to crash Randy and Tommy's segment and to call in for the live stream for the Cure. Tom Co really wanted to be a part of it, so I super, super appreciate that. But the donations just took off, and the donations kept running. We were at 41 or 42% by the end of day one. By the end of day two, by the end of Loot Quest, a bunch of people pitched in to get us to $4,000. We were 80% of the way there by the end of day two. And then Sunday morning started. So Julio Oliveira from the Contrarians had donated $100 overnight. So that counted in there. And then I donated all of our merchandise sales, which, Justin, we raised over $150, $156.50 for merchandise sales. That's what we did in merch for the live stream for the Cure. I donated that, and that immediately put us at like $42.50 and change. So we only had about $750 to make up for that Sunday. And huge shout out goes to our great friend, one of our sponsors of the show, and just an absolutely amazing guy, Caleb from Netflix and Swill, who was the one that made the donation that put us over $5,000. We were playing Fibbage at the time. We were just playing a stream game just randomly on the air, and he made that donation, and we went over $5,000. It feels like I'm really kind of overwhelmed with emotion right now, because number one, the gratitude that I feel for everybody that came out for this event, that set aside their time and dealt with my incessant emailing and my incessant pestering. Justin, I pestered millions of times for graphics. Everybody else I pestered like a million times about signing up for Discord, about making sure they were ready for this and that and the other thing. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy, the amount of organization that I think I tried to put behind this event, but it paid off. It paid off. It did, man. We not only met our goal this year, but not even counting doubled funds, we beat our goal by over $500 this year, which I find absolutely amazing. And on top of that goal, we also managed to raise $780 for Perry and Lindsay, who are two amazing, amazing people who, I mean, literally it broke my heart like in half. You know, when Perry's diagnosis came through, inoperable stage 4 cancer, they were already so gung-ho about this event. They were so excited. They wanted to be part of it so much.
They were already involved before they even found out that
they were the first ones that bought the merchandise with the logo on it. The first ones. And then to find out that he's got that, and he's determined to fight, and that GoFundMe, the link is still down in the show notes. So I would urge anyone that's listening, please, if you can still help Perry and Lindsay with their medical bills, so please go ahead. And I also, Justin, the reason why we do the live stream for the Cure, and the reason why the live stream for the Cure is so important, is because of people like Perry and Lindsay, and because of people like Podcast Rob over at the Something Cast. Now, Justin and I had the pleasure of visiting he and James Hatton over on the Something Cast earlier this year. We talked about our most anticipated 2018 films, I believe, and they really wanted to be part of the live stream for the Cure. Unfortunately, because of scheduling, they weren't able to. They did make a donation, though, which we really appreciate. But unfortunately, as of recording day, it was just about a day ago, just about 24 hours or so ago, Rob's grandfather actually lost a 14-year battle with cancer. And they actually put a GoFundMe up. The link to that GoFundMe is also going to be in the show notes. They are just looking for help with funeral expenses and to kind of transition into the next stage and everything, so they can put their grandfather to rest. They're obviously devastated. And like I said, that's why we do the live stream for the Cure. That's why this event is so fucking important to me. That's why this event is so important to the Epic Film guys. It's because fuck cancer, dude. Just every single person. Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts had just lost somebody in her family a couple of weeks before the event who lost the fight to cancer. My mother-in-law passed like a month before last year's event. It's it's crazy to think about the amount of people that are affected by cancer, and that's why we just want to do everything that we can to help against that fight. So just everybody, please just take a moment and click on that GoFundMe down in the show notes, and please try to help out Podcast Rob and his family in this time of need. And of course, our thoughts here on the Epic Film Guys are definitely with him.
Most definitely.
But to move on, Justin, to get into a little bit more positive news, we're going to wrap up on the live stream for The Cure. We've got a lot of other fun stuff that we have to talk about on this week's show. But before we talk about our top donors and everything from the live stream for The Cure, Justin, before we get into that, there is something that we do every single week on this show. And my friend, I've got to know, what are you drinking?
I'm back! Puke and rally! Give me a beer!
Okay, well, what I'm drinking is no surprise to our regular listeners. No, I'm not drinking Narragansett right this moment. That will come later in the show. Actually, I'll talk about it a little bit. I mean, when I was in Baltimore over the weekend, I was at this this bar for a show, and I was like, get me a PBR, because I really just wanted something to drink, and I didn't want anything that was going to push me over the limit and want to get me to drink more. So I drank what Baltimore's version of the shittiest beer in the world was, and it was actually worse than PBR. So I do drink shit beer now. You can give me hell all you want, make me do things that I don't want to do. I'm guilty of that. It's fine. But I'm drinking from Aslan Beer Company. Big surprise. You call that a knife? It's their double IPA, dry hopped with Citra, Thick Secret, and Waimea. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I think Waimea. They're New Zealand hops, I believe.
Waimea? Okay, there we go. So that's maybe why they're calling it You Call That a Knife, but I'm pretty sure that Crocodile Dundee is Australian, so not sure what the connection is. Maybe they just thought it was a cool name for a beer. Whatever. Passion fruit, dank pine, peach, well rounded out with a little bit of a West Coast bitterness. I really enjoy this beer. I've had it plenty of times. And I went out of my way on Saturday to head over to Aslan to grab it before it sold out. So I like it. It's good. 8.3% alcohol by volume. Of course, no IBUs, but perfect for summer sipping for those double IPA lovers. I love it. But excuse me, Nick. I have to ask you, sir. I'd really like to know, what is that drink in your hand that you're drinking at this moment, sir?
Wait, who invited him in here?
God damn, Tommy.
Chucker.
Well, Justin, I actually got the opportunity the other day to go down to some place that I have not been in quite some time, and they are not going to fare too well in the restaurant review of the restaurant, because their food has gone way downhill, dismally downhill, to where I would even say it's barely edible. Not good. We're, of course, talking about Galaxy Brewing Company, a favorite.
Oh, no.
A one-time favorite of mine in downtown Binghamton, at least food-wise. But at the very least, they still have a couple of amazing beers, including this bad boy. And this is their Nova Double IPA.
I love that beer.
Unbelievably fantastic. They actually... Well, this is bottle number 1. I never realized that. This is bottle number 1 of this.
Holy shit, dude. Lucky guy.
But they actually sell this, and these are wine bottles, Justin. These are 750 milliliter bottles that they sell this in. So it's a little bit bigger than a bomber. And I actually bought 2 of them. I had one of them after I got home when we went down to Galaxy. It's just an utterly fantastic double IPA. It's got a good bitterness that hangs on throughout it. The mouthfeel.
Mouthfeel?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And it's just one of my favorite local beers. It always has been. It's probably my favorite beer that Galaxy does. Even a little bit more so than the Andromeda, which I still really like. But this, I think, is just a little bit more my speed. But yeah, dude, their food, no.
I haven't eaten it in years, man. I think the last time I ate it was before I moved here. So
don't. We also went over to Craft. that night, and they had Sip of Sunshine on tap, which is, of course, absolutely amazing. And they had Beer Tree's Salute to Shorts, which is their New England IPA. Best beer I have had within a 50-mile radius of this area. I shit you not, it is that incredible. It is amazing. When you come up here next, either A, I'm going to go up there before you come up here, and I'm going to buy a few crowlers of it and just have it ready for you to drink, because I know, like, I promise you, you will put this stuff up on the pedestal with the Aslan stuff. It's that good. It's that good.
I don't doubt it, man. I've actually looked. A lot of people are drinking it.
It's
amazing.
A
lot of people are loving it.
I cannot sing its praises enough. And then I had something called the Ninja and the Unicorn, which is from a brewery out of Chicago, I believe. Also really, really good. And then, like I said, the Sip of Sunshine was on tap. I had to have it. You have to have, if it's Sip of Sunshine, if they have it anywhere, you got to get it, right?
Dude, I remember the first time I went out of my way last summer to get that shit for the first time, so you definitely have to drink it for real, man. But it sounds like you had a lot of great beers. I mean, I got some good beers in the fridge. I'm not complaining. I'm drinking some good beer. I'm probably going to drink Narragansett after this. You can make fun of me. It's okay. I'm just prepping myself for my trip to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, a.k.a. Amity Island in July. I have to drink Crush It Like Quint, man. I got to drink the shit lager.
I just want to give a huge shout out here, an actual special shout out to our top donors for the live stream for the Cure event. The Afterburn 739 podcast, who Leo beat the streets, Leo and Kitty. They worked so hard to raise additional money for this thing. So they made like a single donation of $400, and then they had tons of their own fans donating in their name throughout the entire hour and a half that they were on the air. But then they won the $50 gift card. Remember, Justin, we were going to give away a $50 gift card to whomever raised the most money. Leo actually said, nope, you know what? Let's put it right back toward the Cure. So that $50 went right back in, and we donated it back into live stream for the Cure. So huge ups to the Afterburn crew for that. They certainly did not have to do that. We've certainly got some good stuff we're going to send them anyway, some goodies we're going to send out their way. Steve from the podcast, who came on, shared that very, very heartfelt story about how cancer has affected him. He was crying on the air. I felt so bad, and he prides himself on being like this hard ass when he does his own show. But he was actually really upset.
It was very touching, dude.
Really, very really touching. Great. We super appreciate him coming on the air. The Interrupted Tales guys, which what a fun segment that was in the first place. Like, that's an amazing show. If you guys have not checked them out, please check out Interrupted Tales. But not only did they donate, like, probably the third most, Alan made a huge donation, like, before the show. They were coming in all throughout the entire 3-day event, just dropping small donations all the time to keep that donation alert sounding, to keep the stream aware of the fact that, hey, you can keep making donations and keep dropping them in here. So huge shout out to those guys. Destruction in Human Form, Justin, Jared Taylor, who donated probably about $300 or $450, I think, all told, just about. I mean, Jared, dude, we fucking love you, brother. We wouldn't be here still doing this without him. That's true. Let's just face it. That's fucking true, man. It's so generous. It's all you, Jared. Absolutely amazing. We super appreciate it. He made a lot of huge donations all throughout the event. He even donated over $100 to Perry and Lindsay as well. So we super appreciate him. The Knicks cast, I've been on their show a number of times. Absolutely amazing. G, Z, and T, they do an Alzheimer's charity every single August, Justin, that I also... I don't take part in it, but I also play along with them. They play Chrono Trigger, which is an old school Squaresoft RPG for the SNES. I recall you mentioning this, many times. They play it every year for 24 hours to raise money for Alzheimer's research, and I play the game along with them, and they call it the Race Against Time. But that's what their charity thing is called, the Race Against Time. They'll be doing it again this year. I can't wait to take part in it again. Over $300 donated. The Idiosyncrasy Files, they were one of our last guests. They were actually the last guest before Perry and Lindsay on Sunday. $300 in donations. Caleb, over $250 in donations. My friend Bill, about $250 in donations. Dominic from the Angry Old Man podcast, who also gave us 5 free Audible codes for audiobooks, because he also reads books for Audible. And he narrates books for Audible. I should say he doesn't just read them. But he donated $200 live on the air. As I already said earlier, Julio Oliveira, the Contrarians, Steve, who's a fan of Emily's story behind, just a huge fan of Emily, $100 donation. Steve at Everything I Learned from Movies, $100 donation. Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts, $100. And Matt from Death by Film, $100. And, of course, executive producer Brennick, who I want to take, he keeps telling me, stop sucking my dick. I don't care. Fuck you, Dan.
I didn't do anything with phallic objects last night.
I think he most certainly did.
But Dan refuses to say sucked and dick in the same sentence or in the same recording because he's afraid I'm going to take him and cut together.
You just gotta get him like in person to say the stuff, and then you got to record it.
He also donated. Not only did he donate $100 during the stream, he donated $50 to Perry and Lindsay, $50 to us, but he also donated a wealth of his own time to be our executive producer. He was in Discord coordinating guests the entire event pretty much, making sure people's sound levels were checking. He was in there the whole week beforehand, helping people make sure their mics were set up, make sure they were ready to go on the air. His contributions were invaluable. I can't thank him enough. He was absolutely amazing. So Dan, we definitely appreciate all the hard work that you did. And last but not least, Justin, yourself. For the graphics. The graphics are absolutely amazing. So many people reached out after they bought the merchandise, whether it be mugs, whether it be the shirts, whether it be whatever else it was, and said how much they loved the graphics that you put together for the event. So I got to thank you very, very much you really, and people might not think that a lot of work goes into stuff like that, but you just look at that graphic, just the conceptualization of that idea, and just looking at it, like, you put a lot of time and effort into it. It's immediately recognizable when you see it. You know what it is. And I super, super appreciate it. I actually did this. And I just ordered this for myself. just to kind of commemorate the event. But I ordered an acrylic block.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, I ordered an acrylic block with the logo in there for Livestream for the Cure 2.0. So I can just kind of proudly display this wherever I go, because we're going to roll into a quick break here, Justin, but we fucking did it, brother. We fucking did it. We raised over $5,000 for the Cancer Research Institute without them doubling it, without them doubling a cent. And once they double everything, over $10,000 to almost $11,000 just for them. And then you add in Perry and Lindsay, it's even more. But that's what it's all about, baby. Livestream for the Cure. Livestream for the Cure 3 is something I have actively been thinking about. Right now, my leading idea, and I don't know how Justin feels about it. I don't care how Justin feels about it because he's going to do it, whether I have to drag him kicking and screaming to do it anyway.
3 in 3D?
He'll in 3D. But my leading idea right now for Livestream for the Cure 3.0 is 72 hours uninterrupted live and on location. So it'd be me and Justin in the same location along with other shows in the same location, like rent a house or a hotel. Like we rent a hotel, but rent a bunch of rooms above and then they get the conference room to run it out of and do 72 hours uninterrupted. Nothing but live stream for the Cure for 72 hours. While we're resting, there's another show on the air, running content, having guests, doing whatever, raising money for cancer research. And I don't know what amount we're going to set yet for a goal. We've probably got to set at least 10 though, at least 10. Considering how badly we crushed the goal this year, I figure we've got to go crazy. But that's my leading idea right now. But I'm taking a break on live stream for the Cure planning for a while to just, give myself a little bit of time off and focus back on the things that are most important. Things like the Epic Film Guys podcast, things like reviewing movies, Justin.
Which is something we will be doing here in a few moments. I promise you. But there's no reason that we should not bask in the sun of the glory of this amazing outcome of this amazing event. And I'm proud of you more than anything else. And thankful for everyone else that came in and got involved. And it's amazing. Couldn't be happier, man.
The amount of people, my thanks are endless for so many people for all the hard work that they did. And I always, a lot of people thank me and a lot of people congratulate me and a lot of people say whatever to me. And I don't do well in that spotlight. I actually will immediately try to deflect it off to other people or to other things and not pay attention. But I do want to say that I do 100% appreciate everybody that has reached out and has said how much the event meant to them or how proud they are of the fact that we reached our goal. And, I've already had so many people already reaching out and being like, dude, next year we're 100% in. A lot of people, like already probably as many people as volunteered their time this year to be on the show. We've probably already got them next year. That's how big this event was this year. And next year, like I said, we're going to blow the fucking doors off of it next year. I don't even know what the fuck we're going to do next year. It's going to be crazy, but that's all stuff to talk about another time. We're going to roll into really quickly here, a little bit of EFG history. And then Justin, when we come back, it's time to get reacquainted with an old friend of ours. Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Solo.
We will be right back.
This week in epic film history.
Why Bryan Singer decided to make this film in the 80s is beyond me, aside from that shoehorned in scene of the characters going to see Return of the Jedi, which, by the way, shot itself in the fucking foot because it bashes the third film in a trilogy. It's there as a stab in the back to Brett Ratner's The Last Stand, when this film, in fact, is actually almost as bad as The Last Stand, if I may even say it, Nick, as bad as The Last Stand to me, in my opinion. So I don't know why, aside from a few wardrobe choices, why they chose to have this film set in the 80s and not just a couple of years after Days of Future Past. It didn't benefit the film at all. That had nothing to do with what was going on in the 80s. The characters didn't feel like they were in the 80s outside of a few wardrobe choices. So
yeah, there was
timeline.
I mean, the dress. I mean, I will say, as far as the setting itself and the costuming, I think they did the 80s pretty good justice. But I completely agree with you in the fact that makeup just didn't show up, I guess. The makeup department was completely busy working on Oscar Isaac's makeup as Apocalypse, and
which
forgot
we'll get to
that they needed to age up all these other characters and actually make them look like they were in their 40s now. Most of these characters were around in First Class in 1962.
Or they just don't give a shit. Or, Nick, I just think, honestly, what it boils down to is that Bryan Singer didn't give a shit, as he didn't give a shit with a lot of what happened in this movie, which, another major thing that we all go to the movies to see, Nick, it's called acting. And this film had some of the worst acting of any comic book movie I've seen in years.
Speaking of the live stream for The Cure, I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about that. We raised $1,180 in about 50 decimal places because one of our great Australian friends made a donation to the live streamer for whatever reason, and it just broke. It could not figure out the decimals and the exchange rate. So after I'm pretty sure it was Who Spiked the Puns made a donation, the whole thing just broke. So I'm not sure what happened, but I mean, we raised $1,180, and since the Cancer Research Institute is matching all of the donations that we received for the month of May, that is over $1,000 of what we raised toward the event. So overall, we raised over $2,000 for cancer research. So I do want to take the opportunity to thank everybody, with this smattering of applause, of course. Everybody that came out to the show, everybody that guest hosted on the show, everybody that came in, stopped in for a segment, played games. We had an absolute blast. I was exhausted as hell and pretty drunk by the end of it.
Paul from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews, on their most recent episode, did in fact call Dirty Dancing one of the worst movies he's ever seen. I love you for that, buddy, because it fucking sucks.
I totally disagree 100%.
Oh, that's Swayze head's behind the desk looking at me now.
That's damn
He's
right.
He's burning a hole in me.
Swayze's enough to love that movie.
Stop looking at me.
Oop. He loves you, Nick. He has a deep passion for you. He wants to dance with you in a dirty, dirty way. And then he wants to be dead and be a ghost and haunt you for the rest of your life. But he really loves you. That's why he just wants to come back to life to love you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for joining us here on this episode of the Epic Film Guys podcast. We are sure as hell happy to have you here. We love you. We love you. We're so happy to have you here. Justin is.
I'm not sure I'd be able to come on the show without them. Only reason I like to get off of my lily pad is because of those listeners out there listening to Epic Film Frog. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about wanting to fuck Miss Piggy, but then I decide I'd rather just come on the Epic Film Guys and talk movies.
Yeah, a woman knows these kinds of things.
Bacon.
I'm kind of like the Donald Trump of love.
Oh my God, what's going on here? God damn it.
This isn't
Seriously.
awkward at all.
Maybe a little, but ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to be talking about a movie.
Lies.
That's quite a cause. We're going to talk about a movie that's caused quite a stir in the fan community.
I am so wonderful in this movie.
I didn't see you in the movie. I did see a lot of other puppets, which I'll be able to touch on here. We're talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. A lot of fans out there have been bitching and whining and complaining for a number of reasons, and those of which most of them that have been complaining haven't even seen
most of
the
them
film.
have not even seen the film. Yes.
Yes. So this is our featured review on the show this week, and we're going to jump right in. Nick said he had a certain surprise for me, so I'm going to throw it over to him before we go any further. I don't know anything about what he thought about the movie or anything at all. You said you had something for me.
Shut up! Shut up! No! Wrong!
Now shut the fuck up and let me do my job.
Stop it, you weak, you baby! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
I would just like, at the onset of this review, to raise a colossal middle finger at AMC Theaters in Vestal, New York, because the theater that I watched this in, Justin, it looked visually like someone had just taken a big handful of Vaseline and smeared it all over the goddamn lens of the projector, and that they decided to turn the screen brightness way the fuck down. It was so hard to see things in this movie. Like, I've seen the trailers for this film. I know how this film is lit. It was way, way darker than that, and a lot of scenes in the movie were like so like washed out, like you couldn't even see what the fuck was going on. That has nothing to do with the film itself, but everything to do with the presentation. And the presentation of the film ultimately will not affect my final rating of the film, but I am very, very upset with AMC Theaters for how poorly portrayed and how poorly shown this film was. Like I said, it was so dark and so grainy, impossible to see. I'm sure this was not your experience when you watched it at the Alamo. I'm sure that you had a really, really good experience seeing this film in its presentation format. But for me, huge letdown presentation wise. But that said, I'm going to open this up right out of the gate with saying I fucking actually loved this movie, dude.
Oh my God,
this movie
dude.
was fucking
Are we really
going to
do this? Are we going to do this? We're going to agree again, because guess what, Nick?
Man.
I fucking loved it too. I loved it as well. I loved Solo, a Star Wars story.
God,
I loved it.
This movie, and I'll say this, can we address the haters for just a moment, and then
yes,
then we won again.
Let's please.
Then we won again. If you're that person that was skeptical about this, because I was certainly skeptical, we were on this show. We
Definitely.
said it a lot. You know, the trailers really, I don't think, did anything for either one of us. Aaron Reich hadn't really sold us in terms of his portrayal as Han Solo in the trailers. And it was really just kind of, we were iffy, I think. Really iffy going into this film.
I had no expectation at all.
Yeah.
Zero.
And we, of course, know, Justin, about the behind-the-scenes drama with Ron Howard coming in. They had like 90% of this thing shot. They fired Lord and Miller, and then they bring in Ron Howard, and he reshoots pretty much the entire film. But that notwithstanding, it's not a perfect film, and it's definitely not like an amazing, great, awesome, like, it's not like the greatest film you're ever going to see or anything like that, but it's one hell of a fucking fun time at the movies, and it's packed with some performances that are great, a story that's straightforward but really, really serviceable. And I mean, we'll spoil it later. And if you're somebody that watches either the Clone Wars or the Rebels cartoon show, you already know about this character still being alive, but
yeah,
a big cameo popping in, definitely teasing further installments in the Solo trilogy, because we're getting more of these. Supposedly. Well,
we'll see. I mean, The key thing at this point to reflect on right now, Nick, is this is going to be the lowest opening for any Star Wars film ever. It's having trouble gaining footing in China. It really underperformed in the United States this past weekend. And we know that the budget, based on the reshoots, ballooned up past the budget of The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
so this, as of right now, literally because of that. But I mean, what's pissing me off before I even get to the actual movie itself is all these news sites, this clickbait bullshit, which we hate on the Epic Film, guys. We just hate it. Literally like why Solo was a failure, why it's bombing. And it hasn't even gotten to its second week. Now, mind you, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This movie came a few weeks after Infinity War just destroyed box office. Okay. The week after Deadpool 2 just did gangbusters at this was never meant to be. Disney never meant for this to be, The Force Awakens numbers. They knew that it wasn't going to be. This was an experiment. They're testing the waters to see how these kinds of movies, like a solo movie can do, a solo outing. So for me, like, I understand it is underperforming, and I had a feeling that it would. It's no surprise, but saying that it's like a huge failure, like, dude, literally give me a fucking break, dude.
I think that the negative aura around this film, and I know we even have listeners out there that are like, not really for me. I don't really want to catch this flick in theaters. But if you listen to anything, well, you get it, and I get it too. But even still, if you do nothing else, if you listen to nothing else that we ever say, check out this film in the theater, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. If you go into it with an open mind, if you go into it, you cannot, I will say this caveat up front, you cannot go into this expecting to see Harrison Ford's Han Solo.
I agree. And that's the one thing that I'm going to start off my thoughts immediately with, Nick, is it's either going to make it or break it for you in the movie. And for me, I felt like it was like about 5 minutes in when I turned to my brother-in-law who I saw the film with, and I said, I see Han Solo. And that's all that mattered to me. Like, I just immediately accepted it because this is the version of Han Solo in this world that they've built. They've created all these supporting characters built around with him, make it perfect. And I'm like, I don't need it to be Harrison Ford. And to be fair, while we get into his performance of the film, there are moments where he sounds pretty close to Harrison Ford. They obviously, that acting coach that they hired to bring in to make him more like Harrison Ford, it worked. I mean, his mannerisms, the smirk, the eye, some of the things he does with his arms.
I say second half of the film, it definitely starts to become much more noticeable. He definitely starts to feel more like the Han Solo that we're used to seeing. I mean, but you have to go into it with this understanding that, Harrison Ford, you can't ever replace Harrison Ford. I fully would never think that you can. You can't. But can you have another character actor? Can you have another actor playing this role and do a goddamn good job of it and really make a compelling, fun character to watch, a character whose performance you immediately buy into? Yes, you can. And Aaron Reich is 100% up to task here.
I agree 100%. Like I said, I had very little, if any, faults or anything that I had anything to do with his performance. I liked him. I mean, I really don't have any issues with anything I saw him as far as his performance in the film, as far as that goes.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree. And like I said, I really, really think he's got this smarminess about him, and he's got this swagger about him, and he's got this kind of attitude about him in the film where he's really, really cocksure, and he's really, really kind of high on himself. Like, he feels like he can do no wrong, and that's definitely a Han Solo character piece, like a characterization of Han Solo that you definitely get from Harrison Ford as well. Like, he's more than confident in his abilities. He always thinks everything's going to work out in his favor. And he's like 100% like, yeah, I've got this. Let me just take care of it. Let's do this. What's the problem? Of course I can do this. Why can't I do this? This is definitely going to work out in my favor.
And nothing
all those
gets in his
elements
way.
are still here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the beginning of the movie immediately puts you into the mode where you're like, okay, this is Han Solo. We see him stealing something. He doesn't give a fuck about it. And he's trying to get out of his current situation. Now, I feel like you said earlier on, Nick, you called the story serviceable. Basically, this movie is an adventure into the criminal underworld. Solo meets his future co-pilot, Chewbacca, encounters Lando years before joining the rebellion. It's really a simple straightforward story. And I think that's what this story needed to be. I don't really understand people that are expecting going into this movie some kind of masterpiece, so to speak. And I said, listen, this is a movie about Han Solo. I feel like, number one, we shouldn't have this movie in the first place, but we are getting this movie, so let's just go along for the ride and see what we get. Like, literally, like, what kind of expectation should you have for a Han Solo movie? You should have none, because there was never any idea in my mind, say 2 years ago, Nick, say 3, say 10, that we'd ever, in 10 years from now, we're going to get a solo Han Solo movie. Never would I have ever thought that, ever.
Yeah.
So I think, again, the story is very straightforward. It's in the sense of, like, what it is. It's another heist movie, basically. Almost similar to Rogue One, in that they have to go to this thing, they have to take this, they have to steal, and then at the end of the movie, we have to go give this. And so, I mean, you just go along for the ride with these characters, and like literally every new character I met, I liked them. And I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. So I don't know where you want to go from here, Nick, as far as characters. But I mean, for me, I think probably one of the weakest links, you may hate me for this, even though she's great to look at, is Kira. And that's Emilia Clarke. And I thought she was really decent in the movie, but I felt like I didn't really connect with her.
Here's my question back at you, though. My question back to you, because the plot of the film purposely holds back details of her character. Is that her fault, like Emilia Clarke, in terms of performance, or is that the film's fault for not giving her enough to do, because it purposely withholds information until there's this very late reveal of kind of what's going on at the end of the film, where you kind of figure out, like, there's an aha moment, and like, it all falls into place for me there. But I
like Emilia Clarke. I'm not a Game of Thrones guy. But neither of us have watched the show, so I don't know what she's done on there. I know a lot of people love her from that. I think she's fine in the film. It's just Disney has this knack for casting pale white British chicks that all have brunette, like have brown hair. Like literally, that's what we've had with Jyn Erso. It's what we've had with Rey, and I don't mind that, but it's kind of like weird. It's like, okay, this is what they're going to do again. She's good to look at. I'm going to say that much, but I think she works for me better in the opening of the film with her chemistry with Alden.
Much better. Once she comes back in the film, she always seems awkward and out of place. And again, that's not her fault. That has nothing to do with her performance, but I really think that's the story's fault. It wants her to stand out a little bit. It wants you to feel like there's something a little bit odd about her character. And it never tells you what it is until, like I said, the very end of the film. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody just yet. But yeah, there's definitely an element to that character where it feels weird. And because it feels weird, it pulls you out of it just a little bit, I think. At least for me.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you in that regard.
It did for me a little bit. And I mean, again, I know this is a movie. Okay. But when you see the slums they're living in, and then you see how good she looks, and she's all made up, and her hair's well done, and the outfit she's wearing is super sexy, I'm like, you're living in like the slums. Like, how do you look that good? Again, that's movies for you, ladies and gentlemen. So I guess I can't complain that much.
Movies for you.
But dude, how can you not love Woody Harrelson in every fucking thing he does? Like, does this man ever do any wrong, dude? As Beckett? Like, I feel like literally one of my favorite things about the movie. That's me, though. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I will 100% agree with that. Woody Harrelson comes in, so you get the opening act, which is basically kind of introducing you to Han Solo in this world. Okay, and then after that is when you meet Woody Harrelson and you meet his crew at the time, which I don't know how you felt about his crew at the time, Justin, but we can talk about Val and we can talk about Rio Durant. John Favreau voices that character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I love
John
that
Favreau
character.
voices that character. And when they introduce these characters, we'll spoil this part of it for you because I think there's no way to talk about it because this is still the first act of the film. But pretty early in the film, you've got, Han Solo. First of all, he's an Imperial soldier. And he deserts, so he's thrown into a pit with Chewbacca. And this is where he and Chewbacca first meet.
Yep.
He can speak Wookiee, which is kind of ham-fisted. It's kind of forced a little bit, I think. But I don't necessarily think that there's any other way that you can really... Like, if you try to make this whole thing where Han doesn't understand him and then learns Wookiee over the course of the film, I think that works less than just having him just already know it.
Well, yeah, and he mentions he knows a little.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I don't know how you necessarily felt about that. Like, for me, it felt a little bit forced, but I think it has to be because if it's not, then you have to have this whole subplot about Han not understanding what Chewie says all the time, and I think that would have been a detriment to the film.
Well, that and no one else in the film knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
So
true.
There had to be one person that could communicate some of it. And he even says, I know a little. That, and I feel like I was so excited because I knew as soon as they threw Han in the pit and they said thing hasn't eaten in 3 days, I knew it was Chewie down there. I knew. And then he comes out and he's all sludged and muddy and they're trying to make him scary.
I had a moment where I thought maybe it was the Rancor from Jedi. I was like, please tell me they're not going to throw another Rancor in here. But then it was Chewie and I was like, yes, it's Chewie.
Yeah, and then it's a really fun, exciting moment where they're like, he's really beating the shit out of Han, throwing them all over the place. They're all muddy. And then, he's trying to basically bargain with them like, hey, come on, I'll get you out of here. Like, and we see that he can speak a little bit, and they end up tricking the Imperial Guards, and then they're out of there. They're out in minutes, and it was all too convenient, but at the same time, a lot of Star Wars is. So for me, I just thought it was a fun little moment, and I liked how they met.
It was insanely convenient that Han just happens to speak a little bit of Wookiee.
Yeah,
like I said, I feel like it was a little bit forced, but I feel like it was a better decision to just have it be that convenient than the alternative. I think the alternative works less. But before we get any further, Justin, I really feel like this is something that I wanted a lot more of, and unfortunately the film doesn't give it to us, but how great is the fucking war sequence? Like right there in that first act, when we get to see Han on the ground, dude.
We've never seen anything like that before. I mean, we got a taste of war.
That was fucking crazy, dude.
In Rogue One, but that was like insane. That reminded me a lot, Nick, of Edge of Tomorrow. The way that it was so gritty and the war sequences, it was just so dirty and muddy. And that's how I was like, oh my God, like, can I see more of this? Like, and literally the main thing I'm going to keep picking apart here that I love so much, dude, practical fucking effects. When people are getting blown away in explosions, you're seeing people fly all over the place. It's not CG. It's like that. So that sequence for me, I didn't even see that coming.
It was so fucking good. You're exactly right. It was practical, and it was engrossing, and it really dragged you in to that. But it's my only criticism would be that it's just fleeting. Like, it's gone as quickly as it begins. And it was so good. I just wanted more of it. But another thing I want to mention to you, Justin, and I don't know how you felt about this. I do. You loved this. I know you did. Was think about the Imperial commercial, like the commercial for joining the Empire.
And then you hear dun, dun, dun,
how fucking
dun,
great
dun,
was that,
dun,
dude?
dun,
Like, it really reminded me of Starship Troopers, like that kind of satire. Like, and of course the Empire is going to spin things in their direction.
Dude, when that scene happened in the theater, literally everyone started chuckling, looking at themselves, smiling. Like, it was that moment where you look around, it's like,
loved that.
It's fantastic. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I love that. I knew you would think so as well. But back around, I guess, to get into more characters here. Unfortunately, we lose Val and we lose Rio really, really early, and I especially loved Rio. Val, I don't necessarily. She almost felt like she was a little bit one note to me. A little bit.
I think she was just there to be there. She needed to be there. And in movies like this, where there's such a large cast, there's always going to be those couple of characters that are throwaways. And I feel like, Thandie Newton, who played Val, was good in that role.
She was great.
But she was only there to serve her purpose and make her way out. But in the action sequence, which we'll get to our favorite sequences in the film in a little bit, but I thought she was very good in what she had to do. But yeah, dude, I really liked Rio a lot. I mean,
Rio was a great character. I was actually super, super sad when that character gets killed that early. I was like, but
you just gave him to us. Yeah, he was good, and I liked the design of the character a lot too. I really enjoyed that.
I love the way he moved, like his movements, because he had what did he have, six limbs? I think.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I loved the way he moved. I loved the way that they constantly made him using those 6 limbs. Like when he's cooking at the fire, he's got one arm stirring it and he's got another arm tasting it. He's got 2 other arms doing something else over on the other side. Like, it was really, really great. Really well realized visually, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that was just, I think it was a great group of characters to introduce Han to. It led you to believe, like, okay, so this is why Han Solo is Han Solo. Like, you look at that group of characters and you're like, each one of these characters has a different part of what Han Solo's character is that we know and we love. And I love that they gave all, like, you know, one's a smart ass, likes to make lots of comments. One's a hard ass, really tough. And, you know, so it's like, you see the influence on him because he's young. This is his introduction to this world. And the one thing that I don't really care for is that, so we know after he joins the Imperial Army and his whole idea is to get back to Kira, right? And then, well, magically after he joins this team, we'll talk about the action sequence in a moment, but they have a failed attempt at stealing, and then he magically sees her, and like things just she just shows up, and it's like it felt really awkward and weird. And I just like, wait, why is she there all of a sudden? Like, oh, and they're acting like nothing ever happened. I don't know. That was just really weird. Is funny,
Justin. You want to know what I think is super funny? This is the second Star Wars movie in a row to feature fuel as a major subpoint or major subplot. Like the fuel as kind of the driving plot motivation.
Well, yeah, we had that in The Last Jedi.
In The Last Jedi as well. So I felt like that was really, really funny, but I won't say anything else about it. But I will agree with you. I think that it's when she shows up, I think it feels super awkward. I want to talk about that a little bit later when we get into spoilers. When she shows up, you're talking like the beginning of the second act of the film. All of a sudden, oh, boom, here she is. And you're like, wait, what? Like, yeah, that was Han's entire motivation.
Exactly. And then she just shows up in the middle of it, and then it's like, okay, so what is his motivation now?
It's super weird, and it's super off-putting. Almost. Like, you're almost just like you're kind of, the whole time, at least I was watching it, I was like, yeah, but how the fuck did she get, like the whole time, like all of it. I'm super thrown by the whole thing. But speaking of which, because you're talking about Crimson Dawn now, we got to talk about Vision himself, Paul fucking Bettany, as Dryden Voss. What'd you think?
Dude, I loved him. I really did. I like him a lot. I've always loved him in villain roles. One of my favorite movies ever. I haven't watched it in years, but with him in it is Gangster #1, and he's a really bad guy in that movie. That was one of the first movies he did in his career, and he's evil. He kills people brutally. He stabs them. He shoots them. Like, I love him as a villain, and I think that he is a pretty serviceable villain for what this movie is. I know that on this show, Nick, we are all about the villain. Yep. And I think that for the most part, I think he did a really good job of what he was given. And dude, every scene that he's in, he felt menacing, but I always knew that the end game was like, he wasn't going to last. Like, we knew that I had a feeling like I didn't see him moving on to more than one movie. So I took it for what it was. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I did love him in the role, but he did, you are kind of right. He felt like he almost had a little bit of a clock ticking over his head, where you knew that he wasn't going to be in too many more of these films, but he was amazing. I really loved him. And then, I mean, they formed a plan where they're going to get more fuel, and they need a fast ship to do it. And of course, that fast ship is the Millennium Falcon, and that's when we get to meet Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. The best part of this movie, I'm telling you right now. 1000% the best part of this movie. Absolutely runs away with the fucking show in this film. Dude, well, I closed my eyes like 3 or 4 times. Steals it. I closed my eyes, and you know what I heard? I heard Billy D. Lando. I heard Billy D. Yeah. I literally, like, he must have studied the shit out of him. The cadence. He nails the mannerisms. And that's the one thing about Alden Ehrenreich. He does not sound like Harrison Ford. And that's the one thing that people will probably nitpick, and it probably takes him out of it a little bit. I still think Alden was great. I love him as Han Solo. As far as a young Han Solo goes, like, think about it like almost as a young Indiana Jones kind of thing. You can't have Harrison Ford playing this role anymore, especially not for this age. I think Alden's great. But what Donald Glover is able to do as Lando, he nails you never for a moment don't know who that character is. Even if you had never, like, you could close your eyes and just listen to this movie like you just said. That's what I'm saying. You would think literally, that's Billy D. Williams. Legit. I heard it. Yeah. I kept doing it to myself because I kept hearing him talk, and I was like, I turned to my brother-in-law, who's not really as big of a fan at all, but I turned him and I go, dude, it's Billy D. Williams. And he's like, what? And I was like, okay, you're not getting it. But like, I heard it. He had it. The voice was the same, dude.
It's there.
The fucking same. So, and everything about him, his swagger, and it gave us an inside look into who this Lando character is. Oh, dude. Literally. And I love Donald Glover and everything I've seen him in.
Yeah,
I love Childish Gambino. I love his music. Like, everything about this dude, I love. So this was obviously going in. One of the most exciting parts for me is knowing that a talent such as this, and he cared a lot about this character. Like, he went in as a fan, like, oh my God, I'm playing fucking Lando. You know, Billy D. Williams, come on. And they had met and they had talked about the role and everything. So for me, like, this was a huge standout. Like, every single scene he's in, I loved. I looked forward to.
Blows it legitimately out of the water. Like, it is, you're exactly right. He is by far the best thing about this movie. Even though, and I'll say this where I get Disney has to throw a message into its movies. In the last movie, it was animal cruelty and stuff with the whole animals racing on the Casino Planet thing. In this one, it's equality, and we get to see that in
with L337.
L337. I mean, I will give Phoebe Waller-Bridge all the credit in the world. She did a fantastic job of voicing this character. I just didn't care about this character because the only thing this character seemed like and felt like to me was a walking mouthpiece for our cause. You don't ever get to know anything about this character or really feel anything. She's definitely comic relief. Like, think of the same way because that she's kind of the same thing that K2SO was in Rogue One. Like, she's just meant to be comic relief. And, you know, it's always this whole thing. And you get this whole fun action sequence where she frees one droid, takes the restraining bolt off, and is like, oh, you're free. Go free the others. And they all free all the other droids. And it's this whole hilarious blah, blah, blah. Like, it felt forced, and it was forced, and it didn't have a place in this movie. And
here's this thing that I got to bring it up. And Loisos actually brought this to my attention yesterday, and I didn't even really connect the dots until he mentioned it, is that this whole time, this character is talking about droid rights and what their lives should be like. And all of a sudden now, droids have gender, by the way, which I didn't realize was a thing.
Right.
So then this character, right, the whole thing is about freeing and not wanting to be a slave. And then after, spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, she passes in a very, pretty tragic way. You kind of feel a little bit for her, a tiny little bit. I didn't feel a lot, but
that, again, 100% is because how much Donald Glover sells the scene.
Exactly.
Great performance in this film.
So you take this character that is all about ending the slavery of droids, and then you basically implant her memory into the Millennium Falcon, so she's a slave to the ship forever. I didn't even think of that. And Lois House was like, did you know? I was like, oh my God, dude, totally. I didn't even realize. Like, absolutely. So that kind of conflicted with what the character was all about. But I don't think the general public's going to look at it and go, oh, whatever, it's a droid. So she's there for entertainment. To me, it
makes me laugh. It makes me think of, like, you think of like 3PO in Empire, where he's like, I don't know where your ship learned how to communicate. Like, it takes me back to lines like that where it just makes me kind of chuckle. Like, is he having a conversation with this L337 who's embedded in the memory banks of the Millennium Falcon somewhere? Like, it just kind of adds a little bit of a dimension to that. But I mean, overall, like, as a character, like, I don't know that the film necessarily needed her, and where it needed this whole subplot about, like, droid rights and stuff like that. Like, I mean, like, we get what you're going for, Disney, but like I said, it feels heavy-handed because it is.
A little bit forced.
Yeah,
I agree.
It feels heavy-handed, just like it did in The Last Jedi with the animal cruelty stuff. Like, we get it. It's a good point to make, but come on, just have your Star Wars movie. Like, light strokes, not like heavy strokes are the way to go. Are the way to go with that. So, Justin, are you ready to spoil this? Are you ready to spoil the ending of this movie?
I am, but I want to talk about real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The one sequence, Nick, that once I watched it, I realized how much I loved this movie. And it is the first really big action sequence when they're trying to steal the shipment of coaxium on the planet Vandor. Literally, when they're on that train, like, I was watching this in awe how they did this. Number one, they did something very different. We have never seen a sequence like this in a Star Wars movie, where it's like a moving train that's on like this really weird track that like hovers around mountains. And the way they shot that whole action sequence was just mind-blowing to me. I just felt a lot of energy in that sequence and loved the suspense of it.
The great thing is like a lot of the time the camera felt like it was mounted to the train and it was twisting and turning through it because there's a car on top and there's a car on bottom of the rails. And at times the rails twist like 90 degrees so that the cars are like, straight, like on the left and right side of the track. And then the normal way it travels is the cars are on the top and the bottom. And a lot of times it feels like the camera is right on the track. They definitely really utilize kind of that spatial awareness. I think the kudos to Ron Howard for that. Cause that's just,
and Bradford Young, the cinematographer who
really fucking great.
His visual work in Arrival as a cinematographer, Selma, among others. Like I didn't even realize it was him who shot the film. I was like, wow, dude, literally mind-blowing. Like I feel like some of the stuff we saw in this movie is stuff that we've never seen visually in a previous Star Wars film. So that sequence there, after I watched that, I was like, I literally was on the edge of my seat, like I'm in for a real treat here.
And I will say, I will agree with you, and I'll say that I think that is the film's best action sequence. As far as the Kessel Run, like that was like the whole thing, like, oh my god, we get to see the Kessel Run on screen. For me, it was just kind of an action sequence. I mean, part of it was probably my presentation. Again, I don't fault the film for that. I don't think that's the film's fault. I think it's AMC's fault for having it in such a dingy, shitty, terrible
I feel
theater.
bad for you, dude. I really do, because you know what theater I saw it in. I saw it in Theater A at Alamo Drafthouse in that large format.
Everything was
Dolby
gorgeous,
Atmos.
Beautiful 4K. Yeah,
it was
gorgeous.
It was, dude. That's why I legitimately, when you told that story in your Nick's rants, when we opened the segment, I felt
so
really
fucking
horrible.
angry. I'm so angry about that. Fuck you, AMC. Get your shit together. I hate this area more so than anything else. I hate this area because there's just not a good, like a place where you can really truly go without driving at least an hour to see a really great film presentation. Like
I know,
dude. It's so fucking frustrating, and I hate it so goddamn much. I really, really do. But like I said, for me, regardless, I'll let you talk about it a little bit more because maybe you have a different perspective on it. But for me, even that notwithstanding, like I just didn't feel the tension I felt during that earlier train heist. That I felt was a lot better shot, and it was a lot more engaging. This one, the Kessel Run, was a lot more CG heavy, and maybe that played into it. Like a lot more of it was not practical effects. A lot more of it felt a lot more fake, we'll say, to me. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on it.
No, I mean, no, I see what you're saying. I mean, it felt more like by the time we got to that point, you already know. Like, let's face it, we know who Han Solo is by the time we see him in A New Hope. We know he's going to get where he needs to go. So at a certain point, you kind of realize, okay, like the suspense that I'm having in this is going to be a little bit lower. But I really did like that sequence, actually. I mean, I really have little faults to be had with any of the sequences in this movie. I felt like, honestly, Ron Howard, if you're out there listening, this is your best film in fucking ages.
Well, he's definitely listening. I mean, we know that, right?
I seriously, I mean, I really couldn't believe like what he did with the way he came in and picked up with, where they left off with this thing. I'm super glad, and I'm not bashing on Lord Miller at all. You know,
I wonder
I've
what
liked what they've done,
if any, survives from what Lord Miller shot.
I'm very curious to see. I mean, all I know is that the rumor came out, and I'm pretty confident that this is the truth. Is that they wanted to make it more like a Guardians of the Galaxy, which, to be fair, like a Guardians of the Galaxy basically is just riffing on Star Wars in a way anyway. It's definitely a space adventure, so it just way more modern type humor, where in this case, I feel like they still kept the Star Wars mantra where like the humor is modern, but it still feels like it could have been humor maybe in A New Hope or Empire. You know what I mean?
Does
like
still feel a lot like Star Wars to me. It does.
That was the number one thing, dude. That's what I'm going to walk away from with this review. And I walked away from after I saw the movie. Someone came up and said something to somebody else, and they were like, "Oh, hey, what did you think?" And I go, "It felt like Star Wars." And that's what the key is to all these movies. If it doesn't feel like Star Wars, then I'm going to have a problem. But it felt like it, and it was probably the closest I feel like in tone to A New Hope that we'll get with a lot of the action sequences with the suspense and the space stuff. Like for me, I really had no problems with this. I just had a fucking blast with this movie.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. It was really, really entertaining, really, really engaging. I want to jump into spoilers here before we jump into our final rating of the film. If you have not seen the film, I will timestamp this in the show notes. So skip forward to whatever the timestamp is for the other side. But I want to jump into this here really, really quickly. The film ends, Justin, with Beckett betraying Han Solo, which I didn't see coming, which I thought was really, really great because Woody Harrelson, I think, is just that kind of lovable, amazing character where I never expected it of all the people, because he tells them earlier on, he's like, never trust anybody, expect everyone to betray you and you'll be fine. And I think that was a really, really great sequence. Fine. Han kills him because Han shot first. It's all fan service. It's fine. It was fine. It was fine to me. But then you get the reveal, after Paul Bettany's character gets killed, you get the reveal that Kira is actually working for Darth motherfucking Maul.
Darth fucking Maul. Oh my God, dude. Even though I heard rumors about it, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for it. So when I saw it.
Yeah. I never heard rumors of it. Now,
I saw it by accident.
If you're the person that watches Clone Wars or you watch the Rebels cartoon show, you know that Darth Maul survived a Phantom Menace. He's a huge character in the Clone Wars cartoon and in Rebels and that's all canon. That's all canon after Disney purchased the property.
That's correct.
So the character's right, but this is the first time that we've seen this character in live action Star Wars since a Phantom Menace. And it's fucking
Ray Park, dude. It's Ray Park too.
Yeah, dude. When I saw him, because like I said, I already know, the character has already been killed off again in Rebels. So when I saw him, I was just my jaw almost hit the floor. I was just holy shit. And I love that they're bringing that element into it. All of a sudden, and I mentioned this earlier, with Kira, she always feels a little bit out of place. There always feels like there's this little bit of an awkwardness to her.
And now it finally connects the dots. Right.
Because she's a double agent, but she's clearly working with Darth Maul. So it immediately raises the question for me, is she force sensitive? Which she could be, because we don't see any of that in the film. We don't know.
Well, because she even says, dude, numerous times she says, you don't know what I've done.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And then it also brings into question, what kind of a role is Darth Maul going to play in future Star Wars things? Now, we could even get, I know
this is what I'm hoping. Let me spitball here. This is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we do get the Obi-Wan movie, and that's when we're going to see Maul show up, and it's going to be Maul, because supposedly I guess Obi-Wan does kill Maul.
Yep, right? Obi-Wan does kill Maul in Rebels. Spoiler alert for Star Wars Rebels. Obi-Wan kills him again. It's very much a Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan style fight, and not a Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul fight that we got in episode 1. It's a very, very quick fight that Maul
which I don't loses. Want. Yeah, no.
So, I don't know if they're necessarily going to give us a kind of live screen adaptation of that. I'd be fine with it if they did. Or I'd be fine with if they maybe give us a little bit of a riff, a little bit of something else. Who knows? Introducing Darth Maul into this introduces the Force and Force users back into this, because this was a film that I never expected to see it. Because, of course, Han Solo, when you see him in A New Hope, he's like, oh, hokey ancient religions and whatever. It's no match for a good blaster at your side, kid. So I never expected to see a Force user in this film or in these films. So it opens the door for me. It raises so many questions. The ending of this film, it blew me away, because it immediately makes me want 10 more films.
I know what you're saying, dude. And I feel like that's what they were really going for with this. And it really disturbs me and upsets me that a lot of fans are walking away either not wanting to see it or hating it, because it's dude, think about what they could do. Now, I get the idea that we don't need more prequels. I understand that. But it's a very interesting time period where they really have a lot of stuff they could work with. I mean, we know that at this point, we've already got the original trilogy. We've got the third film to the new trilogy coming out that will finish that, and that'll be the end of the Skywalker saga. That's the end. So whatever Rian Johnson's going to end up doing, whether Disney goes ahead with it or not with his trilogy, that'll be separate. So this is our only opportunity that we have to kind of fill in the gaps and play around with what happened before A New Hope, or maybe even they may go before that. Who knows? I don't have a problem with it as long as it's good and as long as it's entertaining. For me, when I saw Maul Dude and he had the new updated lightsaber and the fucking robotic legs and everything, I was like, dude, this is one of my favorite characters from all Star Wars movies. I was like, give me a movie where he fucking pulls out, dude, he pulls out the lightsaber and turns it on. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to see next? It was a great cliffhanger and a great little moment for me to want to see more of it.
It's utterly fantastic. It really, really is. And like I said, it immediately makes me want way more movies in this franchise. Now, do I want to see Han Solo or Chewbacca, for that matter, fighting against Darth Maul or something? And if you absolutely not. And I think that you're best kept with keeping this as a different kind of thing from them, from those characters necessarily. I think Darth Maul obviously has to still play a role in this somehow, and I think it's going to rely on some really, really good screenwriters to craft some really, really good stories. And I think it would be nice if they kind of worked that whole Rebels thing in there where, he confronts Obi-Wan again, or even there's other great characters that they've also introduced in this other media, like Clone Wars and Rebels, where they could bring those characters into it as well. This opens the door now. And we got to see it in Rogue One a little bit because there's a couple of ships in that final battle over Scarif that are from the Rebels cartoon show. So it opened that door in Rogue One, but this is an even bigger opening because now we've reintroduced Darth Maul to the live action canon. And now we can go even bigger and better than that. Like we can bring in these characters from those cartoons, like the really, really good characters. Like you can bring in Anakin's apprentice, who was like his apprentice from like the Clone Wars and throughout like all that. Like there's so many options now. There's so many
they have a lot of options.
Great
I think
things they can do.
There's a lot of great things they can do, but if this doesn't go anywhere, which I have a feeling that it might possibly this will be the end of this, unfortunately. It leaves a lot of loose ends, kind of. I mean, not really, but at the same time, it kind of opens up the doors and says, no, well, we couldn't make it happen. So sorry, we're closing those doors on all you fans that actually came out and supported this thing, which I feel like all fans should. There are too many fans that are just literally shutting this thing out because fucking Han is not Harrison Ford. But one of the things that, for me a little bit that got me, I was like, okay, so at the end of the movie, Beckett mentions this big gangster that's got a job, and then Han goes to do that job. I am assuming that is Jabba the Hutt.
You have to believe that it is, yeah.
So for me, that's
big gangster.
Exactly. That's leading me to believe, Nick, that this movie is directly connecting to A New Hope. Almost, we don't know the time frame, but it's leading me to believe that because when we see,
you got to remember though, Han is already wanted by Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope. So Han has already done the job, whatever job it is, and not paid Jabba in A New Hope. So,
which could leave room for one more film, I feel like, but not a third film. Not a third film. Because we could see the job that he's supposed to do for Jabba, which we could see a lot of different cool characters. I'd be fine with even just
one more. I really would. Even just one more where we get to see... Because here's my question for you, and I don't know the answer for this because I haven't looked it up. Where does this take place? Like, how many years before A New Hope is this movie set? I don't know the answer to that.
But what I'm seeing on the timeline, Nick, is supposedly they're showing this as it's before Rogue One.
Definitely,
but they're not showing Rogue One. They're not showing how many years before Rogue One. So I don't know, because from what I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see like any year dates up on there, and so or anything like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's left that way, honestly, because then we'd be picking things apart and sitting there analyzing every little detail. But I do think there's one more film left in this. I personally hope we get it. I don't know if we will. I told you earlier, you texted me, we were thinking about maybe pushing the episode to tomorrow. Then you're like, no, I'm ready to do it. Now, I was literally about to buy tickets to see this again tonight because I really wanted to watch it again. That's how much I liked this movie, Nick.
Yeah, I really want to see it again because I want to see it in a better theater. I really do. I want to see it with a better presentation, because I really feel like it'll only help my overall perception of the film. I want to jump into final ratings here in just a moment, but I mean, yeah, I think it opens the door here for more films that are going to take place in this pre-A New Hope era. There's like a good 30 years between the end of Revenge of the Sith and, you know, the beginning of A New Hope, where you can really do a lot of playing around. And I really, really hope that Disney continues to play in this area. Another thing that I really, really love about them introducing Darth Maul into this, and I know Darth Maul's a huge fan favorite from the prequels, even though most people dislike the prequels, Maul is one of the elements that they definitely take away from it that they really loved. I really hope that this leads to more Disney Star Wars, bringing in more of these prequel elements to the film. They brought Jimmy Smits into Rogue One. Obviously, he's Senator Organa. And they brought the same woman that played Mon Mothma in the deleted scenes of Episode 3. Same person. They bring her into Rogue One. But Maul really feels like a bigger step than that. So I really hope that there's more prequel elements that we get introduced into these other Disney Star Wars films, these one-offs and everything like that. Because a lot of people shit on the prequels. I think I speak for you as well, but we're definitely defenders of the prequels in a lot of ways.
The sauce is too. The sauce likes the prequels too.
I will urge anyone out there who's on the fence, who's like, maybe I'll wait for rental, maybe I won't necessarily see it in theaters or anything like that. I urge you to change your mind. Go see this film in the theater. I promise you, just have fun with it. Just open up your mind. The story is not going to be anything that's going to be like cavernous and full of twists and turns, even though you get like a couple of little twists at the end there or whatever, which is fine, which is perfectly fine for a film to do, but it's fun. It's got a lot of amazing effects. It's got a great score. I love the score for this movie. Really, really enjoyable. And I'm going to throw a rating on it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really, really, really enjoyed this film way more. And I was super critical of this before it came out. I was not sold on the trailers at all. I was not sold on Ehrenreich at all. I was not sold on a lot of elements. And especially with the behind the scenes drama, it gave me a lot of reason to pause. Is this going to be okay? Will this be the first failure in Disney Star Wars' regime? Actually, for me, not the first failure, because fuck The Force Awakens. But
hey, you watch your mouth.
That notwithstanding, though, I really enjoyed this movie. I really, really had a lot of fun. This was made by a lot of really passionate people who you can tell care about these characters and about the legacy of these characters, especially with the likes of Glover and Ehrenreich in these roles, where you can tell they put a lot of effort into these performances. So there it is, Justin. 8 out of 10.
Dude. Star Wars vet Lawrence Kasdan came back, and Jonathan Kasdan came along with him, and they literally nailed a decent script for this thing and gave us one of the more fun Star Wars movies you'll ever watch on the big screen. I had a blast with this movie. I came into this thing with no expectations, zero. I didn't think any of the trailers looked good, and we were sitting next to Loisos when we were watching something like 3 months ago, and it played, and he was like nodding his head, like smiling, and I was like, don't care at all. Don't care about this movie whatsoever. And I sat down and I was literally in awe over how fun this movie was. And it is the surprise hit of the summer. I hate to use that term because it's so overused, but I had a blast with this. Alden was a very good Han Solo. Dude, Woody Harrelson's a beast in this movie, as he always is. And Donald Glover's Lando is worth your time alone.
Worth the ticket alone.
Lockstep with you. I hate doing this because we do this far too often. I wish you hated this movie and I loved it, or vice versa, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was very good. I don't think it was a classic. I don't think it's going to ever live up to the likes of Empire or the first Star Wars or some of the others. But you know what? To be honest with you, Nick, I'd rather rewatch this than a lot of the other Star Wars movies. I just, for fun value.
Oh, I would watch this 1,000 times before I watch The Force Awakens again. I mean, it's that good.
I know you would.
It's that enjoyable, but if nothing else, it is a solid entry. It's a solid entry. It's a great time at the movies, and there's a lot of good things to unpack here. There's flaws, definitely flaws. You can't say that there's not, but I don't think they're enough to distract from how great the entire thing is as a whole.
Exactly. The story's straightforward. It's there. It's simple. We've seen it before, but that doesn't matter. That does not matter at all. You're there to watch a movie about fucking Han Solo. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is.
Go see this movie. We are going to go ahead and run into another break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to touch on Deadpool 2. We're going to talk about a couple of other little news items that we didn't get to touch on the top of the show and roll out with our ending. So,
we will. Hey,
Hey you fucking assholes. We'll be right back.
This week in epic film history.
Don't be throwing up that PBR there, hipster / hobo Justin.
No,
Special
Nick,
shout out.
It's just that I really liked. I'm telling you right now. Hey, you act surprised to hear from me. Are you like excited or something? Is there something in your pants that may be growing like a slithering snake through the field?
We've been a little bit concerned about you there, Liz, because we haven't heard from you in weeks and weeks. And meanwhile, we've got this fucking hobo / hipster running around up in here drinking PBR. I figured you followed me down to Punta Cana for my honeymoon, and you were down there banging every dude you could find on the beach.
That sounds really great, actually. But, you know, lately, Justin doesn't like to drink the heavier beers, but tonight he chose this thing that's called Sly Fox, which obviously fits very well in with my personality. A lot of people call me a sly fox, you know, because I am quite foxy, Nick. So I always thought, like, Professor X stood for Professor X-rated, that he, like, did porno movies or something. I don't know. It's good to hear from you, Nick. Like, I'm really excited to, like...
Emily's going to get really sad right now as Justin beats himself to death. But as I was saying, we have a special shout out to one Patrick Sherwood for your mock-up of hobo / hipster Justin with the little fucking hobo hat and the ripped up coat and everything. It looked hilarious. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Justin, welcome back.
Now, I wanted to channel my inner Anakin Skywalker, but I didn't have any younglings to kill, so I decided to start killing younglings.
This is former President Bill Clinton, and I want to talk about the butt.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's fucking amazing.
Wes, I love you so much.
I love you.
All right, Fuzzy
the
D.
gayest way possible.
Stanley Tucci tickled some taints. Tufty taints.
All right, Dan.
Hello, this is Dan. I'm doing a sound check.
Caleb.
You suck, Dan. You suck, Dan.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
All right, and Shampoo.
The gypsies, they don't like it when you call them gypsies. But we call them gypsies because they're fucking gypsies.
This is jar of gypsy tears. It will prevent the AIDS.
By the way, that is a direct quote from a Romanian guy that I know.
I was about to say, fucking Romania.
All right, we started with a Justin. We started with a Justin. We will end with a Justin. Justin Winters.
What's up? Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
That wasn't funny at all.
He's used to it.
Yeah, and we'll see you at the movies. I'll sit next to you and put my hand down your pants. We'll see what happens. I'm not gay, but I want to see if you got any change in there. Good night, everyone.
And thanks for sticking with us like Jizz on Your Pants with the Epic Film Guys podcast.
That's disgusting.
You know that moment when you jizz all over yourself and it's sticky and the top of your jeans stick to your underwear because your dick stuck to that. And, well, that's what I'm saying. Thanks for sticking with us. Like that jizz on your jeans, baby. The Epic Film Guys. Ooh.
Is there ever been a better description of us as a show? Like, we are the jizz on your jeans. That's...
That jizz stain that you have from 1985 that's still there because, well, yeah. I don't know.
God damn
You don't
it.
clean your jeans. Nick has not had an opportunity to tell us what he thought of Deadpool 2. So we're going to throw it on over to you, my friend. What was your takeaway from the sequel?
Barely passing.
Oh my God. What?
I saw this movie. Of course, you out there, film fans, Epic Film Guys fans, you know how much I loved the first film. I absolutely loved the first film, and I was super, super, super looking forward to this film. You and Loisos already reviewed it last week, so I don't want to talk about necessarily the nuts and bolts. I'll just mention really quickly what I liked and what did not work for me. Reynolds, of course, is fucking fantastic in this film, not only as Wilson and Deadpool, but also as the voice of Juggernaut. Loved that Juggernaut was in this fucking thing. One of my favorite things about this film was Juggernaut, especially getting a fucking electric cable shoved into his ass.
I know, right?
And everything. That I thought was really, really great. I loved Justin. I absolutely loved the entire montage of the entire X-Force getting fucking killed on their first mission. Amazing, huge moment. But I think what they did was they kind of subverted that expectation that you had, that you were going to go into this whole big thing of X-Force fighting this whole battle.
Oh, they definitely did. Yeah.
I loved that they all got fucking killed. It was absolutely hilarious. Not a big fan of the kid as Fire Fist, and I know you mentioned that, I believe, last week in the review as well, that you were not that big of a fan. Also, I'm going to be the guy that says it. I loved Brolin as Cable. I hated Cable in this movie because I feel like they didn't have anything better to do with Cable than just to give him a dumb, shitty motivation to come back to pretend that he's the antagonist of the film for half of it. And then to throw, finally, of course, the kid and Juggernaut is the final antagonists of this film. But his plan makes no sense to me. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I really, really feel like, if you're Cable and he comes and he murders your entire fucking whatever, you got to be smarter about this shit, and you got to go back further in time. You could have taken this kid to the fucking X-Men. Why? This is one of the things that pisses me off about the Deadpool universe, is because they had the great joke where they obviously, when they were filming the Dark Phoenix, they shot a little scene of the entire X-Men. And I
loved that scene. I loved that scene so much. I loved
it. It was great, but it also really highlights a huge problem I have with this. This is a fucking orphanage that is straight up abusing kids, abusing mutants. Where are the fucking X-Men? Where the fuck are the X-Men? Nowhere to be found, because obviously this isn't an X-Men film. It's just a Deadpool film. And I know Deadpool makes fun of it. Blah, blah, blah. There's no fucking X-Men around here and whatever. And it was a funny scene and everything, but it doesn't fucking work for me whatsoever. And it makes Cable fine. He comes back in the film, and I understand his motivation. I get what the film wants to sell as his motivation, but I hate that this is how they introduce this character into this universe. It's completely shitty and pointless to me. And I'm sorry, but I don't buy the kid's last minute swerve. The kid is so violently angry. He is legitimately ripping apart and torching this entire fucking orphanage to try to kill this guy. The anger that has built up in this kid's after years and years and years of abuse at the hands of this fucking headmaster, all of a sudden he's just going to be like, all right, done, just because Deadpool sacrifices himself to save him. No, I don't buy it at all. I feel like this kid still had that murderous rage in him, and I don't feel like that would have changed. It did not sell that to me whatsoever in the film. I'm giving this a 6, and that's
okay. One step down from me.
Barely a 6. And I was talking to Paul from the Countdown about it, and on their rating scale, they rate things out of 100. This would have been a 57 out of 100 for me. Barely, and I mean barely passing, Justin. It's good-ish in parts, and it has its moments. The X-Force part was a huge part of that. I loved that entire sequence, and the action sequences are on fucking point in this movie.
Oh, dude, that's the whole reason why I gave it a 7 is because of the action, because I was literally in awe over all the fight stuff. Obviously we have John Wick people involved with this thing, so it's going to look that good. But I mean, for me, with the first film, Nick, I was on the floor, dude, in laughter, in tears. And in this one, I laughed a few times, but nothing ever nailed me the way the first film did. So I get what you're saying, dude. I totally do. A lot of people are
barely chuckled a few times. Like I said, when all the X-Force members die, that was probably the first time that I was laughing out loud. And of course, the post-credit stuff where he shoots the original Deadpool from Origins, and he shoots himself in the head as he's reading Green
that's
Lantern
all
script.
gold.
That shit was fucking hilarious. I loved that shit. But other than that, I'm sorry, and I'll be the guy that says it, but the first act of this film felt like an entire film in itself. It takes way too fucking long. Way too long. Even though you get the great one shot of Deadpool running through the warehouse, fucking murdering the shit out of people, killing tons of people. Continuous movement. I loved it. There were a lot of great elements, but yeah, barely a 6 out of 10. Barely recommending Deadpool 2.
Whoa,
it was just...
Holy shit, dude.
It was okay.
So not excited for a sequel then, huh?
Not really. No, not really. And I know we're
The
going to
first
get
one
like
had
an
that
X-Force
novelty
movie,
factor, man.
but yeah, I'm not really, like I said, it had as many problems as it had good points. Like I said, I think Juggernaut probably is the one thing that tips it just over the
we
scale.
finally got to see Juggernaut and Colossus fight in a real
A
battle.
real Juggernaut,
That was enough
too.
for me.
Not that fucking
real
little
Juggernaut.
piece of shit anorexic fucking Juggernaut that we got in The Last
With his
Stand.
football helmet on. Yeah, I know.
We got the real fucking Juggernaut. Like, that was fucking amazing. And one thing I didn't hear you guys mention during your fucking review, I mean, of course you guys talked about Brad Pitt as the Vanisher, which was hilarious because they kept shooting the shot of just the parachute pack falling and stuff like that. That was hilarious. It was like a quick 2-second thing. Brad Pitt shot it in like one afternoon.
Were you going to mention Damon?
Matt Damon, I also thought was a hilarious cameo. I knew nothing about it, and then I read about it afterward. I was like, holy fuck, that was Matt fucking Damon. And Alan Tudyk in that scene as well. But yeah, there were a lot of great little Easter eggs, a lot of little great things that were thrown in there. But man, as a film itself, like construction wise, it shit the bed.
You win some, you lose
hardcore.
some. You win some, you lose some. And hey, man, I'd rather go back and rewatch Solo than Deadpool 2. So that's me. But
Solo's best film of the summer for me so far.
There it is from Epic Film Guy Nick. 6 out of 10 for Deadpool 2.
Barely.
But there is another film that celebrated a 20th anniversary last week that we did not get a chance to talk about. A film that you love very much. Why don't you tell us about it?
I wish I had sound drops on the soundboard for it. It's kind of criminal
I know,
that
right?
I don't.
So many sound drops you could put on that.
Yeah,
shit.
literally the whole fucking soundboard could be nothing but sound drops from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. One of my favorite fucking movies of all time. It's probably top 20 for me. It is brilliant. Legitimately the best performance Johnny Depp has ever given. I will stand by that no matter who wants to fucking argue with me about it. I absolutely love this movie. He moved in with Hunter S. Thompson for about 6 months. Hunter S. Thompson gave him the haircut and gave him the clothes. And like literally Johnny Depp lived with him in order to get that persona 100% for that film. And you also had Benicio del Toro in it as his attorney, and a whole ton of cameos from people like Christina Ricci. Cameron Diaz shows up in it at one fucking point. And it's just, first of all, it's trippy as fuck. It's crazy.
Batshit crazy, dude. It's batshit crazy.
Legitimately
I remember the first time I
insane.
saw it, and I was like, "What am I watching?"
Dude, it's legitimately like insane to watch. But the points that it makes about the kind of upswell of American culture, especially in like the 60s and 70s, it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. And I think that anybody, you need to give this film a shot. If you've never seen it, if you're one of those people who has maybe heard about it or, you know, whatever, please watch this film. It's definitely due its own spotlight here on the Epic Film Guys podcast, which
I need to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Dude. It's been a long time. I mean, when I was
love that movie.
When it first came out, it was like when you went to the party, that's the movie that was on. And when I went to some of the crazier parties, it was always on.
Oh, it is that great. It really is. It's funny. It's just got so many amazing moments, but it's also really poignant. If you just sit and you let the deeper themes of the film really kind of sink into you, and about, like, you know, the kind of American identity, like what is the identity of America as a whole, especially at this point in history. I think that this film really fucking nails it. It really nails the genius of Hunter S. Thompson. Crazy genius though he was. And like I said, Johnny Depp's best performance by a country fucking mile. Not even close. Nothing else he has ever done is anywhere even close to this role. He's that good in it. Oh, man. But yeah, 20 years of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Please check out we got to do a spotlight for it at some point in the future. Justin and I have actually talked about it. I actually came up with the idea not too long ago, but there are a lot of films that Justin and I have talked about on this show in terms of my favorite films of all time, of Justin's favorite films of all time. Well, we've never talked about them on this show. We've never actually done a review of Jaws on this fucking show. Justin, how much do you love
God
Jaws?
damn it. We were supposed to do something.
Yeah.
Last
how much
year,
do you love
but the whole
Jaws? A little bit? Like, kind of a little bit? Like this much?
Probably more
You're drinking Narragansett fucking ale right now.
I'm drinking Narragansett Ale out of the Crush It Like Quint 1975 limited edition cans, mind you.
I mean, legit. Like,
yes.
How many times have we talked about Schmidt is my favorite film of all time, or American Beauty?
We've never talked about it. We've never talked about either of them.
Aronofsky's The Fountain. Like, a lot of films that you and I both absolutely love. Like, films that we would probably rate a perfect score that we've never talked about.
I mean, we just totally missed the 20th anniversary of Roland Emmerich's Godzilla. We didn't even we should have did a full
10 out of 10.
A full commentary retrospective on masterpiece that it is. God damn it!
I love that film.
You know,
with huge apologies to our resident kaiju expert Robert Moreno. We love you. Actually, you know what? He does not dislike that film. He just dislikes calling that creature Godzilla.
A Godzilla.
He's fine with the movie, I think itself, but he just hates calling that Godzilla, which I understand. I understand that criticism of it, but. Yeah, so we've talked about that. That's something that's going to be coming sometime soon. I don't know when, but I want to try to record 1 or 2 of those a month, and we'll do one for regular release and one for patrons. So patrons will get 2 a month, and regular listeners, of course, will get 1 per month. But it's just your chance to get to know your Epic Film Guys a little bit better. There'll be no hate, no shitting on, no crap or anything like that. It'll just be us absolutely loving some of our favorite films of all time, which I think is just something. We did it with the commentaries, I think, with Ghostbusters and with Batman a while. We haven't done a commentary in a long time. I want to tell you guys that we'll do more commentaries, but I don't know when we would. And I don't know when we'd have the time to really set aside to sit down for that full length of time to actually watch through a movie, because it takes a lot to kind of coordinate that and get it to work right and everything as well as to edit it together and put it together. So I don't want to promise you guys we'll do more commentaries, but we'll try. But,
yeah, we'll see what happens. What happens. I mean, I got to say, though, before we end the show, I had some huge highlights this last week that were film-related directly. Our own Loisos actually hosted and planned a Margot Kidder remembrance screening of the first Superman movie that we did at Alamo Drafthouse last week, which I actually... got to thank him. Can't thank him enough for doing that. It was great seeing that on the big screen. And got to see Ron Underwood's Tremors last week on the big screen as well. 2 movies that I never thought, Nick, as a kid, that I'd see on the big screen. So just major props to our own Loisos for doing all that great program at the Alamo Drafthouse. Gotta love the sauce.
That's why we love the sauce. And it's one of those things that makes me eternally jealous, because I don't get those opportunities to see whatever it is, just a classic film or whatever the case may be on the big screen. I am going to be reaching out now that the live stream for The Cure is over. That's really my goal for the second half of 2018, is to reach out to local theaters and see if maybe there's some kind of thing that we can do to throw a showing of some kind of classic something or other up on a screen, host some kind of silly movie party and have fun with it. And, maybe draw some Epic Film Guys, some local Epic Film Guys audience members to a screening. I think it would be a blast to do something like that, but we'll have to wait and see if that bears any fruit. But that's one of the best things that I think, even more so than, you get to see all these other movies and whatever at the Alamo, is I think that Loisos does. That's great. And that's the great thing about his job, is he gets to, have these movie parties all the time where he constantly celebrates whatever film it is, whether it is because of the passing of somebody, or whether it's because it's an anniversary, or whether it's just some fucking random nonsense where you guys want to talk about, some really, really schlocky, B movie that was produced for $40.
Hang him, kill him, hang him, hit him.
Haunted Ween.
Yeah,
God damn it. I'm gonna force him to play Haunted Ween next year.
We should play it every day for like the week leading up to Halloween.
I'm so lost on time, but god damn it, man. It's great to get back with you and talk movies again. I felt like the live stream was so awesome, but it also drained you and drained my brain, because my brain doesn't function that well as it is. So I was like, wait a minute. What are we going to do, man? And we're back at it.
Yeah, a woman knows these kinds of things.
But I told you last night not to get into my business, you bitch. Fuck you.
I'm going to take you down.
Well, maybe later. I'll take you on the bed and see how you like it.
I'm kind of like the Donald Trump of love.
I did once upon a time promised I was going to pack the soundboard full of Miss Piggy quotes just so I could.
And here we go.
Have a back and forth. We don't even need to do a show anymore. It could just be Justin doing the frog and then, Miss Piggy.
I am so wonderful in this movie.
We weren't even talking about a movie. I have no idea what that has to do with anything. But
I don't watch movies. What are you talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are so thrilled to be back to regular episodes. Fortunately, the live stream for The Cure this year was a resounding success, and I cannot begin to thank you guys with just how amazing it was. It was just such an amazing event, and all of your generosity with both your time and your money to make this event a success. We just owe it to hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people, even those people necessarily that just all they did was play the promo, or all they did was mention the event or talk about it or whatever. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude, and we're so happy, and we're so thrilled that we smashed that goal right out of the park. And like I said, next year I'm going to be even more ambitious next year. Like this year was so ambitious. Next year's going to be even more so. Like I said, I would love to do like 72 hours straight, but I'd also love to do like a week, like we rent a house or something like that for a week, and we do live recording of podcasts and live gaming and all that kind of stuff. Then we do the 3-day event, and then we have just a big fucking blowout party the last day just to celebrate and have fun. I really think that live stream for The Cure, the first year, it was just kind of getting started. We got our feet wet with what it takes to be involved in something like this. But I think this year proved that with hard work and with dedication and with determination from everybody out there that wanted to be a part of this thing and that worked so hard to be a part of this thing, we can really make a huge difference. And I really think that we did. And I am eternally grateful to everybody out there that's listening in the Epic Film Guys universe for making the event what it was. It was really great. And I really appreciate everything that everybody has done for it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Justin's heart, Loy Sauce, if he has a heart somewhere in there. I don't know. I think those Russell Stover dinners probably ate that thing away a long time ago.
Well, that and his love of children being in danger. I don't know, man. He's a pretty brutal guy.
Yeah, that's why Loy Sauce didn't rate Deadpool 2 even higher, because he wanted to see children get blown up. And he didn't. I'm sorry.
Not enough dead children. But yeah, thanks everyone again for everyone that posted, for everyone that commented or shared or got involved or whatever you did to help with the live stream for The Cure. This is all for you.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate it so much.
So much more to come for the month of June and beyond. Summer movie season is just beginning, but I really think, honestly, Justin, even though Deadpool 2 was a little bit meh for me, could have been better, I still think we're off to a pretty goddamn good start to the summer movie season. And the next big film coming for us, Incredibles 2.
That's right,
which
man.
I'm
I
super
can't wait.
looking forward to.
Definitely. We got a lot of great stuff in store for you guys this summer. But until
Don't tell
then,
me you're not looking forward to John Hamm in Tag.
A doggy?
A dog?
Doggy?
A doggy?
Do I see a dog?
Get out of here.
It's late, ladies and gentlemen. I've had too many Narragansetts today.
He's seeing gorillas.
I'm seeing gorillas, I tell you. I'm seeing real gorillas.
Oh,
I seen a monkey, I tell you. A chimp.
Lord.
A chimpanzee. A chimney-chimmy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate so much you guys listening to the show. We love you. You are amazing. For myself, for Justin, for the god of podcasting, who is such a god of podcasting, he couldn't even be with us here tonight because he's just got to watch over everything.
He's texting Greg Sestero. They're just having a back and forth chat. I'm sure.
Thank
guaranteeing you.
all very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. And
we will see you at the movies.
Shut up, frog.
I am so